All right. Today is Friday, February 23rd. It's 2024. Oh, this almost said 23. This is my little Bible study, and we're back here at Humble Heart Ministry again. All right. It's the last time, apparently, we're going to be doing this with any kind of regularity. But I'm just going to keep going like it was what was planned, all right? Because I already had this all done, so here we're going to go with it. All right. Let's review a little bit about what we've been talking about. We've been getting pretty heavy into Israel. What's the difference between Israel and the rest of the planet, all right? All right. Got to go all the way back to where the Bible starts, that there are actually three heaven and earth ages. One's already passed. All right. We live in the flesh age now. We're all the children are now born of the flesh. All right. There's another one to come. We call this the heavenly kingdom or the eternity. You'll hear me refer to it as the third heaven and earth age a lot. Paul, in fact, he's speaking secondhand in one place where he talks about he knew a guy one time that whether he was in the spirit or in the body, he didn't know, but God knows. But he got a look into what he called the third heaven, was what he called it. And it was the third heaven and earth age. And what he said about it was that it was unlawful to speak the things that he saw. So, buddy, hang on. It's worth getting. It's worth entertaining just based on what Paul. You got to remember, Paul spoke about 5 languages, all right? And if Paul saw it and he was at a loss for words with 5 languages to work from, well, that means it's something pretty impressive. All right. We get another look into that in the book of Revelation after chapter 20. After 19 is the second advent. So the rest of that after Judgment Day all appears in the eternity there. All right, but before we get there. So we've dropped the distinction between Israel and the rest of the world. The difference between them is Israel was a tiller of the ground. That's where they begin, right? The very first day we started with the lineage in Luke chapter 3 that starts with Joseph and Jesus and a legal adoption. Ends with Adam in the Garden of Eden. It's a full chapter of begots all the way back to the beginning, right? Now, with that being so, we worked through that, then we worked through Eve and all that stuff to her. All right, now we're to the days of Noah. Now, I'm a big one on the days of Noah. I think, in my personal opinion, the flood of Noah is one of the things that is completely mistaught most often. All right. And I've taken some time with you guys when we were drawing out the distinction between the 6-day creation and the tiller of the ground, the difference with animals. Right? Remember, we had the group that was Bara created, and that you have the other group that's Shatzar. It's molded. It's not the same meaning. Right? And so we drew that out real good. This happens with man. This happens with animals. So now we're here in the days of Noah, and I keep saying that the perspective is everything in understanding what's going on. From the time we start talking about the tiller of the ground, we are laser focused on one man's family. His name was Adam, right? Real simple. The rest of the Bible, then, is how he comes in contact with the rest of the people on the planet and the adventures that they have. Okay, now we made it up to the days of Noah. The New Testament, but no matter about how just about everybody within Christianity has heard the expression that it's going to be just like it was in the days of Noah, right? I mean, I don't think there's anybody here that's never heard that. Yeah, most people do, right? But now we need to really understand what it means, okay? And with that being said, Father, I'd like to pray that this open eyes and open ears wherever they may be. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, the first thing we want to do, now that reference is made twice in the New Testament. Once in Matthew, and then once in Luke. All right, we're going to start tonight with Matthew, and we're going to read it. And then we're going to study the days of Noah. And at the end of the days of Noah, we're going to look at the passage in Luke and see if we've learned anything. See if you understand it any better. Just if you learn something here or there, that's fine. All right? Now, the first place we want to go then is Matthew chapter 24, verse 36. So if you're following along in your Bible, that's where we're headed first. And if you want, go ahead and put your finger in Genesis chapter 6. We'll be going there next.
You say 24, 36?
Yeah. I believe Because I'm dyslexic and I'll mess numbers up like you have never seen. But yes, 24 and 36, if my brain's wired straight. If not, I don't know. I'll just read it. I got it written down, so. That's why I love computers, because and references like Strong's is nothing but numbers and definitions. It's like, man, in the old days you had to sit down, write that down, flip through 100 things, get a magnifying glass, write that number down. You ought to be dyslexic and do that. You know how many times I've tracked a word for like 20 minutes and just get the answer right twice? It's like, if I get the same answer twice, that's what I got, that's right. That was where I went with it. If I get the same answer twice, okay, I'm going to stick with it for a minute. And then here came this one. My friend introduced me to this. I use, I'll just plug it. It's eSword is the name of it. It's the best Bible software I've ever seen. For life, it's been free. You know, I think it still is. That you can download it for free on, like Windows machines. My iPad, I think it costs like $5. So it's worth it. And I think that is just a charge that iPad uses the service for as a platform to distribute it. It's the best thing in the world. Got a built-in strong concordance, and that's all I use it for. It's great. And it does all the number things for me. I just worry about the definition. I don't worry about the number unless I'm talking to you and telling you is that number. And that's subject to question sometimes. You can look at them, figure that out. All right, everybody there? All right, this is what it says. But of the day and the hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. 38. For as in those days they were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, and marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah, or Noe, the Greek version of the Hebrew word Noah, entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came, that took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Now this is one of those mysterious references to the days of Noah right there. All right. I want you to bear in mind, all right, these people, Matthew, all right, he's one of those descendants of Adam that came out of those tribes that we've been studying. We've not got up to Jacob and Abraham and all of them yet. All right, but this is way back in the early formation, all right? But he's a downstream descendant. And he remembers that because he knows what his people are, all right? But nonetheless, that's that reference. So what does that really mean? Because all my life I've heard preachers say that it's just marriage between men and women. All right, but the thing that I beg to differ with that is that everything he ever taught, anything he ever created was to be fruitful and multiply. So he meant for men and women to bond, all right, and have children, because that's the primary commandment to everything that lives. All right, it's written into biology, it's written into the Bible. So what does that mean? We have a kind of conundrum here. And they say, well, it's divorce. Okay, well, it could be, maybe. It's the fact that we marry, it says we married, giving in marriage, and continue to do that over and over. You gotta remember what's marriage in the Bible. Old Testament, we're way back here. What's marriage in the Bible? It's when a man and a woman lay together. Where a man stops and spreads his skirt, covers a woman's nakedness, they're wed. That's marriage. Okay, both naked under the skirt, got to draw you a picture. All right, so he intended these things to be. So we're talking about something else, and the only way to get that, let's just go to the days of Noah. All right, chapter 6, verse 1 is where we're going to pick it up. We're going to use New Strong's quite a bit tonight. So, chapter 6. All right. So here we go at the days of Noah, all right? And it came to pass, when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, all right, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. All right, the first thing about this is I want you to remember again, you're focused on Adam's lineage. All right, the fact that they say took implies that this is forceful. This is not necessarily something that's necessarily consensual, let's just say. Okay? But the key to really understanding what this means is we got to understand what the sons of God are. All right? Now, the word son in your Strong's Concordance and your Hebrew index of your Strong's is 1121. All All right, and it's Bane. All right, and is a son or a builder of a family unit. So a child. All right. Now, the word that you use here for God, this one is Elohim. All right, and it is 403 in the Hebrew Index. It means gods in the ordinary sense, but specifically used in the plural, thus explicitly with the article of the supreme God. Okay, what's that mean? I mean, these are the sons of God. The Hebrew expression is Ben Elohim. Okay? Hold on to that. Because now I want you to flip over, keep your finger there in chapter 6, flip over, or you can just listen to me and I'll just tell you the story if you want. I'll read it to you. To Job chapter 1, verse 6. Now you've heard me probably say stuff, when you get something repeated 2 times in a row, well, it's for emphasis. It means something special, all right? Chapter 1, this is stated. In the beginning of chapter 2, they're going to get almost the exact same statement made again. All right, so this is out of chapter 1. Listen to what it says. And this is Job chapter 1, verse 6. And now there was a day when the sons of God, the Ben Elohim, all right, came to present themselves before the Lord. This is L-O-R-D in capital letters. This is the sacred name. The enunciation that I use is Yahweh. All right? So anytime you see that when you're reading, that's not Elohim, like G-O-D, capital G, but L-O-R-D, it's the sacred name when it's completely capitalized. Now you see it with big L and little O-R-D in the New Testament, all right? All right, so here we go again. What are they doing? All right, it's the same thing again. All right, and Satan also came among them. Now, Satan, if you needed the Strong's definition for it, it's 7853, and it means an opponent, or the opponent, especially with the article Satan, the archenemy of good. All right, it comes from 7853. And it roots to it's a prime root, and it means to attack. All right. So who led the rebellion against God? Lucifer. Right? Exactly. Satan. Right. All right. He's exactly that. He's the one that attacked, the opponent that stands against good, that was attacking God. All right. Remember, that's the reason why this heaven and earth age even exists. We talked enough about the first one. He could have just did away with everything then and started over, but no. He loves his children, so we have this earth age. Where the Ben Elohim, the sons of God, the ones that are there, gathered with God. All right, and listen to what it says about them. Verse 7, and the Lord said unto Satan, what did it say? It said, let me go back up here and start again. And Satan came also among them. Why? Because he's one of the sons of God. All right, remember that? Ezekiel 28. You were perfect in the day that thou was created. All right? Until iniquity was found in him. So he was created. He's one of the sons of God. Just like you, just like you. Just like you. That term has no gender intended to it, male or female. All right? If you've looked in the New Testament, you'll know. He told them, when they were talking about marriage, remember? When Christ, but he has the scribes and the Pharisees bring a woman caught in the act of adultery, right? I'm not even thinking of different. The one that says, oh yeah, he approaches them with the question. He got one man marries a woman and he dies without an heir, and his brother marries her, and he dies, and it goes all the way down. Has all 7 of them as a husband. Which one, whose wife is she in the kingdom? And he said, you heir. Right? But there's no male or female in the kingdom of God. So that term Ben Elohim doesn't mean male or female, anything. It just means you and your soul and your spiritual body, one of the sons of God. But listen to what it says about them. Right? And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down in it. All right? And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? For there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. All right? What did it just say? It said the sons of God there, right? Satan's right there with them. Well, listen, they're talking about a flesh man on the earth. Okay? So if you ever wonder what the sons of God are, there they are. Right there, they're the ones that sit there in God's realm with him, talking about a flesh man on the earth, one that God says is a perfect and upright and a just man. But if you remember, he has a couple of real bad days. Right? Remember who was doing that? The one who is the attacker. Right? People get twisted around in the book of Job and blame God. What God said, all right, you can do what you want, but you can't kill him. So in fact, God was the one that was holding Lucifer back. Job's a pretty tough guy. Had some bad times, but he stayed faithful. And if you finish the book to the end of it, you'll find out he was rewarded handsomely for his trouble. All right? All so we can understand just exactly who the sons of God actually are. All right? So, and Job, I always mention this. Job is a parable. You have to really sit down and think about Job. You got to leg some stuff out with it. One of my favorite books. All right. Everybody got to pick one. All right, but nonetheless, you see that same thing repeated in chapter 2, twice for emphasis, so you don't miss it. All right? Don't miss it. All right. So let's go back then. Genesis, we're going to pick it up in verse 3. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. All right, let's address that first. The man is flesh. I just want you to remember that's what he said. All right, because here in either this lecture or if I get the chance to do the next one after that, you're going to have to draw that back out and use it again. All right, and it ends up being real important. All right, but for tonight, we're chasing something else. When that picture starts to form here in verse 4. Verse 4, and there were giants in the earth in those days. Now, let's just go ahead and finish the verse, and then we'll go back and attack everything. And also, after that, when the sons of God, the Bain Elohim, came in unto the daughters of men, Adam's lineage, he's not chasing the 6-day creation, he's after Adam's wife, the women from Adam's line. Okay, why? We've talked about that before here. Why? Why is that so important one? Why not some other ring? All right? Why? Because eventually, remember where we started to study about Israel, start with Jesus and Joseph. All right? That lineage that starts there ends with the Messiah. Okay? That's why it's important for them to attack the Adamic lineage. It wasn't chasing the 6-day creation. That wasn't no problem. All right? But the lineage that was going to bring the Messiah in, the one that was going to usher in the time of the age of the church, all right, now that's a big deal. All right? So that's what we're focused on. Remember, perspective is important in the book of Genesis and the days of Noah. We're focused on the Adamic lineage, not the rest of mankind. Have been since the tillers of the ground. All right. So let's tear this up then. This word giants, it says, and there were giants in the earth in those days. This is the first place in the Bible that the word giants is used, and it's mistranslated flat out. It's so grievous that I can't help but think it was somewhere along the line, it almost has to be intentional. All right, because if it was translated right, we wouldn't have this big consternation between people who call themselves Sethites and those that call themselves the what's called the angelic view of the days of Noah. All right, but this word giants is 5303 in your Strongs, all right, in your Hebrew Index. All right, and it doesn't mean we're actually a giant. What it means is properly a feller. All right, it comes from 5307, 5307, excuse me, is an aphel, all right, and it means to fall. All right, so these fallen ones are the Nephil. All right, the Nephil is the Hebrew word. A group of them would be called the Nephilium. All right, everybody in this room has probably heard that word. All right, even if you're a gamer, if you watch anything on YouTube, you're going to hear people talking about the Nephilium. A lot of baloney about the Nephilium. Right? But these Nephilim are the reason why we have all these like Greek gods that are halflings, half man, half god. All right? That's why you have like Enkidu and Enkidu here out of the Sumerian group, right? All talking about the same thing. But the word means the fallen ones, the Nephilim. And that's the first time it's printed. Now listen to what it says. We'll go over it again. And also after that, when the sons of God, the Nephilim, this is the sons of God gone bad. It came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which of old, men of renown. So Nephilim, the parental figure. Flesh women, the maternal figure. The product of that are the mighty men. This term mighty men is Gibor. That means a powerful, by implication, a warrior, a tyrant, a champion, a giant, mighty man. This is the product of the Nephilim, the one that's translated giant, which should be translated fallen angel, if you want to take it all the way up to what we would call it. That's just a fallen angel doing his thing. Now let's talk about days of Noah again then in the New Testament. In the New Testament, this is what they're talking about, the giving and taking in marriage. They weren't just giving, they were taking. They didn't want any other women outside of Adam's line because they knew that eventually the one that would save all of them would come through that line. Go all the way back to Eve, right out of the garden. You're just promised to be the mother of all living. Not because she's the first woman. You know that's not right. But she is the woman that starts that line and isn't Mary right at the top of it. That's what that means. So you're going to see this again. Now that was the first time. Actually, that's the second time. You want to go all the way back to the garden, that's the first time. So here we have this in the days of Noah. Now, you know how it ends in the days of Noah, right? Big flood. Everything dies. We're going to get to that. That's probably going to be next week. Now, when it comes to giant killers, who's the big giant killer in the Bible? David. That's right. Right out the gate, David. Right? Let's think about this. We know how to get a giant. Right? It's a product of a Nephilim, a fallen angel, and a flesh woman. Well, the first attempt was on the Adamic lineage. Well, there's another attempt because by the time we go all the way up into Daniel's time, these giants are here again bugging people, causing problems, raising all kinds. This time they're not after the Adamic lineage. That doesn't work out so good. This time they're after the 6-day creation, all the ones around Israel. Right? You get where this is going? God wouldn't let it stand the first time. He killed them. Second time, he's going to let David and all his bunch kill them. What's this? I swear I leak water. Listen to what this says. I flip over to 2 Samuel chapter 21, verse 15. All right. Now, you're going to begin this, maybe see some, let's see. Well, no, okay. All right, 21, verse 15. Everybody there? All right, moreover, the Philistines, you know who the Philistines are today? Sound like, can you hear it in the word Philistine? Palestinian. All right, they live in Gaza. All right, you know who else was from Gaza who did a lot of fighting in Gaza? Samson. You know that? A lot of it. A lot of fighting. I was just studying that today. We got on my Wednesday night class, one of the guys, Roman, he had a little granddaughter. And his daughter named her Delilah May. And so I said, all right, we'll use anything for use for Bible study. We're doing Samson. So we'll be doing that one Wednesday night. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. All right, but here we are. 2 Samuel chapter 20, verse 15. What's this? Moreover, the Philistines, and yet war with Israel. And David went down, and his servants with him, and fought against the Philistines, and David waxed faint. Now, you got to remember, David's getting a little older by here, all right? But David did not sit back when it was time to fight. From the time that he kills Goliath, he's in the army. All right? And he's had the kind of status that he's not going to stay. He's just some rifleman in some platoon somewhere. This man was moving up. He already killed Goliath. They all knew it. He's working for Saul. Ends up married, running around with Saul's son. They have all kind of good fun together. All right? But nonetheless, here we are. And David went to Spain. He was tired. All right? He was getting old. He had to stop. And his men are starting to worry about him. And Abinadab, which was of the sons of the giant, all right, the weight of whose spear weighed about 300 shekels of brass. It's almost 8 pounds. How far can you throw 8 pounds? Not very. More likely, I'm going to drop it on my toe and hurt myself. You're lucky I won't drop it on your toe and hurt you. All right? All right, but nonetheless, 8 shekels, 8 pounds almost. All right, him being girded with a new sword, thought to slay David. All right, he'd had enough of it. This giant's going to go kill the other giant killer. Right? He's making a name for himself. He's moving up. All right, and this word giant. All right, it's not the same one. It's not in the field. All right, now you got to check this out. We're going to find something neat here. All right. Here, the word giant is from the Hebrew index of 7498. All right, and it is Rapha. All right, it means a giant. All right, it's the name of a couple of Israelites. It comes, it's the same as 7497. All right, 7497. Let's see, invigorating, a giant. One of the words is Raphaim. All right, Raphaim, that's a class of angel. All right. All right, so here we got something. We had the Nephilim in Noah's day, but here we have the Raphaim. What's the difference? All right, you'll find the difference, all right, when you run the word. All right, it comes from 7495, Raphaim, which is one of the definitions of it. It says you can also see 1051, which means house of giants. All right, it comes from 7495. It means properly to mend by stitching, that is, figuratively to cure or to cause to heal, all right, a physician, repair, or to make whole. All right, so here's the hustle. All right, the first days they took to them women as they will, but here they're working on the 6-day creation. This is why we end up with all these hybrids, all right? Because what's it go? They're healers, all right? They're physicians. To mend by stitching, you get cut, they can fix it. If you're sick, you're spitting up a lung, they can fix it. But eventually it's going to cost. Does anybody know what the cost for their services would be as a member of fallen angels and most of their cults? Do you know what they required? Yeah, it's called passing your children through the fire. It means you had to sacrifice your children. Nice little place. You want to go to church? Think about that. They're pretty twisted about it. All right, now think of this. All right, what if you were real sick? Well, that'd be great. But we need women. You got 2 daughters. We can cure you for your kids. For your daughters, pass them through the fire. They might not sacrifice them, but what are they going to do? All right, they're going to bear children to the Raphaim. Now, that's a lot of me things right in there, judging just from the language. Well, but you got any better ideas sitting there thinking? Me either. Pretty sick little twisted thing, and it fits right into the scheme that we know existed in the Old Testament. That Gehenna, the place called Gehenna that often is translated to hell. I just found out this the other day. There's a trash pit right outside Jerusalem. But do you know why it was a trash pit? It was because there at Gehenna they used to sacrifice children to the fire god right off the top of it. And the Jewish people knew what that was for. So they just turned that stuff into a dump. It'll later be used as an analogy in the New Testament for hell. But that's the origins for Gehenna. Modern archaeology figured that out because they found the base of the tower and everything else with it. Love it. I love archaeology out of Israel. Always interesting, all right? Nonetheless, listen what it says. But Ashia, son of Zahura, scourged him, which means just simply to surround, and smote the Philistine and killed him, the giant. All right. Then the men of David sware unto him, saying, Thou shalt go no more out with us to battle, that thou quench not the light of Israel. Said, don't, dude, you ain't going out anymore. We use a national symbol. All right? You're fighting us. Let's go kill these dudes. It's all right. Dude, they've been fighting. These boys were bled together. All right? David's bunch, they meant it when they swore allegiance to David. All right? Which, interesting enough, was a very fine edge that Jonathan, Saul's son, had to walk with David and his dad. If you ever read that, keep that in mind. Whew. And then throw in the fact that he's married to Saul's daughter, who can't be trusted anyway. And man, that was a mess. You talk about court intrigue. Shakespeare couldn't write that. I mean, that's good stuff. But nonetheless, verse 18, and it came to pass after this that there was again a battle with the Philistines at Gob, where Shechebah the Hushalite slew Sapha, which was the sons of the giants, again Raphaim. All right. And there was again a battle in Gob, where the Philistines were at Elam, and the son of Jehoram and Bethlehemite slew the brother of Goliath, the Gittite. All right, so David's victim, all right, had a couple of brothers. You ever wonder how come David knew he needed one rock? I think he picked up, 5? Ever wonder why? Because David knew he's going to kill Goliath, but he's going to have some brothers too. All right, he's going to have to kill them eventually. Turns out it wasn't just David, but David's brother turns out to be a pretty good giant killer too. All right, who slew the brother of Goliath the Gittite, the staff whose spear was like a weaver's beam. And there was yet a battle at Gath, where was a man of great stature that had on every hand 6 fingers, and on every hand 6 toes, 24 in number, and he also was born to the giants. All right, now let's take that apart just a little bit. All right, because we got a lot more information here than you can just generally read over, all right? Listen to that. I need this watch here. In the time that we live, we would call that condition, polydactylism, multiple extra digits, right? And it usually comes where people are just too closely related over time. It's not so much incest, it's just that the gene pool is kind of restricted and it's over time and you end up with more extra digits. That's one of the first places it comes out. Good analog, I come from a dairy industry way back, and we used to run goats, and if they were line bred too long, they'd actually build an extra duct on the nipple. All right, same kind of a thing. It's just, and they would work and milk just fine with it, and they'd raise their kids, but it's just a sign when you start seeing that kind of a defect, you got to make sure you're training out the Billy, time to do some work, and kind of cycle them out. All right, so what does that tell us? Well, Raphaim, flesh women, all right, they can make babies. They're called giants. They're big. People want to tell me that this is gigantism. It's a genetic defect. Most famous person you ever probably know is Andre the Giant. All right, that's what he had. Matter of fact, it's a genetic condition, and most of his family has it. Yeah, they're all right. But some of the things that you don't know about this man, that the bigger he got, the harder it got for that man to live. There's this. When I was a kid, I liked wrestling. All right. Well, there's this wrestling match between Andre the Giant and then Hulk Hogan. And he's kind of coming up. And the whole thing was centered around nobody could pick Andre the Giant up and body slam him, all right? But they knew that Andre the Giant was done. The people that really knew him knew that the man can't walk. He's going to have a hard time just getting into the ring. All right? And the doctors told Andre the Giant that if he takes his body slam, he might not be able to walk out of the ring. But he went ahead and went through with it and did it. Hulk Hogan picked him up, sure enough. Well, you can tell he helped, though. He's a big old boy. All right. But if he would have been fighting me, and I have a sword and a shield and maybe some help, that man would die in a heartbeat. All right. He can't fight. Think he could throw an 8-pound head on a spear? How far do you think you throw 8 pounds? This guy could heave it far enough it was an effective weapon. All right? I don't sound like somebody that's suffering from the kind of condition that Andre the Giant has, right? Or had, I should say, right? So that I've always thrown that kind of out the window. That's just a lazy excuse for not doing any homework in your book. All right. Now, the only way you're going to get a giant is, by golly, have a fallen angel and a flesh woman. Well, guess what? It's going to be just like it was in the days of Noah. It's just like it was. Me and you have daughters. What do you think? It's right. Me too. Got a whole bunch of them. I'm sure we're not the only one. How many have granddaughters? You want to see this? Well, this is what they face. This is what they need to know. And so you find a lot of this, and you don't get this talked about a lot because it's kind of some spooky stuff. You got to decide you're going to make some stands somewhere when you start studying it. I decided a long time ago I was going to stand in the book. People don't like it, I'll go home and play with my boys. That's my attitude. I take it or can leave it because I'll find it somewhere else. I teach on Wednesday night. All right? Now, that's what it's talking about. That's what it means. It's going to be like it was in the days of Noah. All right? Now, how do you defend against that? It's already been done. You don't have to do nothing. All you got to do is claim the authority that was given to you under the Christian covenant, under the blood of Christ, and they have to obey you. All right? They're like an evil spirit. All right? They're bound. They can't do anything about it. All right? So we got a big test coming. It's a big one. All right? The parable of the fig tree came to pass in 1948. We're studying these tribes. All right? Every one of them are involved in it. Not just the tribe of Judah. All right? But the other 11 tribes are doing just fine. They're doing just fine. All right? Now, let's see. All right, now we're back there. How long have we been going? Anybody know? Let's see.
7:10, about 40 minutes.
All right, let's see. Let me see here. All right, let's just call it done right there. All right, well, next time, if you get part 2 of this, we're going to pick it up with the flood part. All right, so now you know what the sin is in the days of Noah. All right, don't let nobody rob you from that. You're going to hear people talking about Sethites. It's the sons of God. That means they're the children of Seth, which is the next child from Adam and Eve. All right, but that doesn't float with what the language says. What the language says is that in the days of Noah, fallen angels came and cohabited with women, all right, and it brought on the biggest flood, and everybody's still talking about it. All right, and there's a lot to be in that. The New Testament tells out quite clearly, all right, that it's going to be just like that. So get ready. All right, you guys have a good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I got another one right on that too, on the rest of the days to know to figure it out, to finish it up. So.